Okay, today we're going to do an update, and it's going to be in response to something I read on Twitter. We're also going to have a discussion about some update in regards to Trump and Epstein. So, on November 11th, there was a tweet by this guy, Ross Douthat, Douthat, writes for the New York Times. He says, quote, I think the fact that populist nationalism emerges pretty organically all over the developed world after 2012 should make one skeptical of assigning too much responsibility to any single ideological faction, right liberal or post liberal or otherwise. End of quote. Okay, well, that's nonsense, of course, because the nationalist movements are part of the Russian aggression by penetration. These nationalist movements are being encouraged, fueled, funded, supported, helped by Russians and, by tech bros and other powerful transnational forces. Remember, Catherine Belton in her book Putin's People talked about how Russia supports these fifth columns within countries, to include our own country, the United States. MAGA is clearly one such movement. It has the ideological support that comes to it from Bannon and Dugin and the rest of other people in the Russian intelligence services passing their ideas into MAGA. So I want to talk about something that the Prime Minister of Poland, Mr. Tusk, said on October 11th. And it's in TVP World. Quote, Russia already at war with the West with fifth columns in Europe, says the Polish Prime Minister, end of quote. So I think it's Donald Tusk, Prime Minister Tusk said, quote, Russia is already at war with the West and has a fifth column in Europe, which is seeking to divide the continent. The war Russia is waging against us is much more sophisticated than it used to be. In Poland, it takes the form of arson, drone strikes, and increasingly aggressive cyber attacks. The war Putin is waging against the West is also taking place inside our societies. Putin has tools that can destroy the European Union as an organization, but also Europe as a cultural phenomenon. Remember the Russians and the MAGA and Heritage Foundation talks about civilization. They are not for civilization. They are for devolution. We have civilization now in America, and we can talk to people, and in Europe, we can talk to people. We can enjoy things. We can live our lives very well, and also in accordance with how we want to do it. So the person is really looked after in the West. Okay, so uh, Prime Minister Tusk goes on to say, these tools are Russia's fifth columns present in every country of Europe. The fifth column, that's the nationalist movements that Putin is funding, supporting, helping, otherwise endorsing. And that, of course, we get that now from J.D. Vance, Rod Dreher, um, Orban's, Gladden Pippin, and others. They are all supporting this nationalist idea to fracture NATO, which Tusk says is essential, and to break up the EU and to pull America out of the world. Okay, this is not. The nationalist movements may play with sentiments and resentments in countries, but these are if not funded, they are supported, they are helped, they are advanced by very powerful forces to include transnational elites and the Russians. Okay, so in France, there was an article from October 15th. The top French court upholds a ban on Marine Le Pen's 2027 candidacy. She was convicted for misappropriation of funds and given 4 years, 2 years served. So she is not getting out of jail, I believe, anytime soon. So her political career is probably over. But already they've appointed someone else to run her party. And she'll still serve as some sort of cheerleader, I suppose. In the United Kingdom, the Reform Party is the problem. Okay, Nathan Gill was convicted for making statements in the EU Parliament that benefited Russia for money. Okay, so now Gill was a leader and a member of the UK Reform Party. I think he was the leader of the Welsh branch or faction of the UK Reform Party. Nigel Farage, who apparently knew Gill, suddenly distanced himself. And of course, in UK, there are a number of reports, and you can see this all over social media, of Musk encouraging civil war in the UK. Racial conflict, social conflict. He wants that, and so that comes out of the same place that David Sachs learned his racism, his hatred of the West, and that is South Africa. Peter Thiel is German, and he also learned a lot of the South African apartheid ideas, and he is now trying to implement them. Okay, so the article on the UK was by Ben Quinn, Luke Harding, Artem Majukin, Peter Wilbur from November the 1st. It's in The Guardian. Quote, Reform UK, the Russians and roles of Kremlin cash, the inside story of Nathan Gill. All right. In Germany, there was a story in the Telegraph earlier in 2024. German politician filmed taking Russian money. The story was by James Jacom, and it was in the Telegraph. Like I said, Peter Bystrom of the AFD party was filmed taking 20,000 euros from the Russians. Now, there was also a report that this is a report from November 6th of this year from Reuters by Sarah Marsh, a far-right German, the article is called Far-Right German MPs to Visit Russia as Scrutiny of Moscow Ties Mounts. And there you had a number of AFD officials visiting Russia. And there was also a story, and I don't have the source of the story right now, that indicated that the AFD members of the European Parliament and members of the German Parliament are asking for information on German defenses, and the concern is that they're giving this information to the Russians. So this is a very troubling situation. So what are the lessons that we're getting from this right now? Okay, so Russia is interested in supporting these nationalist parties, like Catherine Belton said. And these nationalist parties are the UK Reformed, AFD, Le Pen's party. Duterte may say they're organic, but they're definitely organized, encouraged, supported, helped by the enemies of those countries to break apart, to rip apart, as one person said, the social fabric in those countries. Much of what like MAGA's doing. MAGA's ripping apart the social fabric in this country with its media. Okay, so the Russians and the transnational tech bros and others are a threat to countries, the threat to Europe, the threat to unity of the world, the threat to civilization. They are designed to tear apart societies. They're designed to advance Russian geopolitical goals and worldwide tyranny. And they do that by basically destroying any sort of cooperation in society and therefore making it a call for tyranny, for tyrants, for dictators, guys who are going to bring the peace, who've got to make everything peaceful. These people are not interested, the nationalist groups are not interested really in Christianity. They're not interested in doing the right thing. They're not interested in working with people. They're simply interested in tearing things apart. And their biggest violation of Christianity is the ultranationalist nature of these people, which has been condemned by Epstein in his book Code of International Ethics and by the Church with Pius XI and his encyclical on National Socialism. These nationalist movements are ultimately dealing with the supremacy of the state. The state makes the final determination of what is right or wrong in the world. It is not part of a moral order. Okay, the church has thrown that out. Humanity has thrown that out. America threw that out a long time ago. Okay, but these nationalist parties are bringing that back, and it's not Christian, but these nationalist parties also claim to be traditional Catholics in many cases. Okay, so then they want to break cooperation within countries and between countries, and they want to break the unity of humanity. So these nationalist movements are based on lies because their leaders say, well, we're Christian. They're really not. They're throwbacks. They're devolution. It's based on lies, based on Russian manipulation, Russian money. And these movements are lies because they're not talking about how they're getting help from the Russians and from the tech bros. Okay, they're just not. They're not being honest. So Europe and the United States need to really monitor these parties and the leadership, and they need to create the tools, the laws, the resources necessary to prosecute these leaders and basically lock them up or otherwise neutralize any influence that they might have. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about, and this is kind of I told you so moment, kind of like the first part of this talk was. I told you so. Trump, Epstein, and the Russian connection. So emails are now coming out. This is Friday, November 14th. Emails are now coming out. You can read them online. You can also download them. I've had some difficulty downloading them. I got finally figured out a way to look at them and read them. You may have seen some of these. What these basically do is they confirm that Epstein had a Russian connection. Epstein was a Russian operation, and he was funneling information to the Russians. Okay, so let's talk about some really prominent ones. I don't have all of them. I don't have time to talk about all of them, but there is an exchange in March, between March 19th, March 21, 2018, between Jeff Epstein and his brother Mark. Mark says, quote, ask him if Putin has photos of Trump blowing Bubba. That's interesting, isn't it? Who's Bubba? But Trump, maybe Trump is homosexual. So Jeff says, and I thought I had surus, which is a Yiddish word for troubles. So what kind of problems do we have here with Trump? Is he homosexual? But in any event, there's this understanding between the brothers that Jeff Epstein can talk to the Russians. I mean, everybody knows this. Okay, so earlier Jeff Epstein said, quote, in response to a question from Mark, how he's doing, Jeff says, quote, all good, Bannon with me, end of quote. Okay, Bannon with me. Okay, so Bannon, as we know, has got very strong ideological ties to Dugin and to the Russians. He's advancing Russian geopolitical goals. His purpose is to destroy American power. He's working with traditional Catholics to do that within the church and within the United States. Michael Wolff, the author who is bringing a lawsuit against Melania Trump, and who's referenced in some of these emails, Michael Wolff has separately said that Bannon feared Jeff Epstein. And that was the one guy that Bannon feared because Bannon knew Jeff Epstein could destroy Trump. This is autumn of 2016 during the race. Now, I believe that Bannon actually interviewed Epstein and got hours of tapes talking to him. I haven't heard those. Don't know what they say. If somebody has them, let me know. I'd love to hear them. Okay, so that's the connection there. Okay, they're fellow travelers. They're working together, trying to protect the wrecking ball, who is Trump, to advance Russian geopolitical goals. Okay, now there was an exchange in June of 2018. It was between Jeff Epstein, and somebody called Jagland Thorbjørn, who I believe is a Norwegian minister of sorts. So Jeff says, quote, I think you might suggest to Putin that Lavrov can get insight on talking to me. Vitaly Churkin used to, but he died, end of quote. Okay, Vitaly Churkin was the Russian minister to the United Nations. When he died in early 2017, it was February 2017, Jeff Epstein sent an email to Peter Thiel, one of the tech pros. And he said, life is short, man. You better enjoy it. Eat the dessert first, So, I mean, Jeff Epstein was tied in with the tech pros and with the Russians who are advancing the Trump regime and J.D. Vance and basically Project 2025, either directly or indirectly, to destroy American power, American institutions, and usher in an age of tyranny. So this is what you're seeing. So Thorbjørn replies, I'll meet Lavrov's assistant on Monday and will suggest. Okay, end of quote. Jeff comes back and says, Churkin was great. He understood Trump after our conversation. It is not complex. He, meaning Trump, must be seen to get something. It's that simple. End of quote. Following month in July 2018, Helsinki, Trump met Putin. They had a private meeting. Nobody knows exactly what was said. Trump comes out like the whipped dog. You may have all seen that photograph. Putin is beaming, and Trump says, there are allegations of Russia meddling in the 2016 election, and I don't believe that's true. I believe Putin over my own intelligence agencies. Okay, and of course, the evidence was that Putin did interfere in the 2016 election. That was detailed in the 2019 Mueller report and in the Foreign Intelligence report from, I believe it was August of 2020, which Senator Marco Rubio signed off on. So, okay, so this is what we're seeing. We're seeing that. Oh, and by the way, there's an email in there that talks about Trump and Jeff Epstein having Thanksgiving dinner in 2017. So, Trump, from these emails, from this information, remained close with Epstein. And remember, it was Trump's DOJ that arrested and investigated and was going to prosecute Epstein further in 2019 until Epstein allegedly committed suicide. Okay, so what all this shows is that Epstein is a Russian operation. He's helping the Russians. And also, what we need to realize there's pressure on Trump now. He may be down, but he's not out. I mean, this guy has got big support, big time support. He's got demonic protection, and what has to happen is we have to, keep putting pressure on him. I understand that there are regular marches now occurring in D.C., peaceful mass protests calling for his removal. And the people can do that, impeach, convict, remove. The people can do that. People can ask for his removal. And more people are putting pressure on their senators and congressmen to remove Trump. And I believe they're also going to ask for the removal of Vance. So that's the way this is going. Thank you very much.